I woke up at 6:30 that morning, same as every morning for the past 47 years. The coffee maker was already gurgling in the kitchen. I'd set it the night before, like I always do. 72 years old, and I still can't break the habit of preparing for tomorrow. I poured myself a cup and sat down at the kitchen table by the window. The chair creaks now. Everything in this house creaks. The floorboards, the stairs, even me when I stand up too fast. But the view hasn't changed. Same street, same houses, same maple tree that drops its leaves on my driveway every fall. I reached for my phone. The screen was dark. No missed calls, no messages, not even one of those automated birthday wishes from the dentist's office. Today was my 72nd birthday. I set the phone down next to my coffee cup and stared at it. Black screen staring back at me. For a moment, I wondered if it was broken. Maybe the battery died overnight. Maybe there was some kind of network problem. I picked it up again, pressed the home button. Full battery, full signal. The time read 7:04 a.m. Nothing. My son Patrick lives 20 minutes away, has 2 kids of his own now. Emma's 15, Jake's 12. I haven't seen them since Christmas. Haven't talked to Patrick since, well, it's been a while. He's busy with his construction business. I get that. I was busy too when he was growing up. Linda's closer, just across town. She works at the bank downtown, the one where I had my account for 38 years before they got bought out by some company from Chicago. She used to call every Sunday. Used to. The coffee was getting cold. I took a sip anyway. Bitter. Across the street, the Bennetts were already up. I could see Robert in his robe, carrying grocery bags from his car. His wife Emily was at the kitchen window, probably making breakfast. They've been married 8 years now. Their boy Oliver is in 2nd grade. Comes home from school around 3:30 every day. Sweet kid. Always waves when he sees me. The mailman came by at 8:15. Same time, every day. He nodded at me through the window. Jerry's been delivering mail to this route for 12 years. He knows it's my birthday. Wrote it down in that little notebook he carries. But Jerry's just doing his job. Can't expect him to remember every customer's personal business. No cards in the mail either. I finished my coffee and rinsed the cup in the sink. The kitchen felt too quiet. Even the refrigerator wasn't humming. Just silence. The kind that makes you aware of your own breathing. At 9, I went to check the phone again. Still nothing. Maybe they forgot. People forget things. I forgot Elizabeth's birthday once, back in '94. She didn't speak to me for 3 days. But this is different. You don't forget your father's birthday 2 years in a row. Do you? I sat back down at the table and looked out at the street. Mrs. Chen from next door was in her garden planting something near the fence line. She looked up and waved. I waved back. Nice woman. Brings me soup sometimes when she makes too much. Doesn't speak much English, but kindness doesn't need translation. The phone stayed silent. By 10 o'clock, I knew they weren't going to call. I went upstairs to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. Elizabeth's side still looked the same as the day she moved out. 3 years ago, I kept the pillows fluffed, the nightstand clear, except for the lamp and that little ceramic bird she bought at a craft fair in Vermont. She said it reminded her of freedom. Guess she found what she was looking for. The divorce papers are in my desk drawer downstairs, signed and filed, 34 years of marriage reduced to a stack of legal documents and a monthly alimony check. But that's not what hurt. What hurt was how easy it seemed for her, how quickly she settled into her new apartment across town, how fast she stopped asking about the kids' visits. They chose sides, Patrick and Linda. Not openly. They're too polite for that. But I can feel it in the phone calls that don't come, the invitations that stopped, the way they talk around me instead of to me when we're all in the same room. I opened the closet and pulled out the box from the top shelf. Photo albums. Haven't looked at these in months. The first one fell open to Patrick's high school graduation. There he is in his cap and gown, Elizabeth beaming beside him, me in my good suit with my arm around them both. We looked happy. We were happy. Or I thought we were. The next page showed Linda's wedding day, 5 years ago now. Beautiful ceremony at St. Mary's. I walked her down the aisle, handed her over to Mark with a smile and a handshake. "Take care of her," I whispered to him. He nodded, promised he would. They separated 8 months later. I kept turning pages. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, summer vacations at the lake house, all of us together, laughing at something I can't remember now. In every picture, the kids are looking at Elizabeth. Even when they're standing next to me, their eyes are on her. She was the center, the sun we all orbited around. When she left, everything fell out of orbit. The doorbell rang downstairs. I closed the album and listened. Maybe it was Patrick. Maybe Linda remembered after all. I walked to the bedroom window and looked down at the front porch. Just a delivery truck pulling away, package on the doorstep. I wasn't expecting anything. Downstairs, I opened the front door and picked up the box. Small, about the size of a shoebox. No return address. Just my name and address written in black marker. The handwriting looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. Back in the kitchen, I set the box on the table next to where my phone still sat silent. The tape was already peeling at one corner. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was something that made my breath catch. A pocket watch. My father's pocket watch. The one I gave to Patrick on his 18th birthday. The one he promised to pass down to his son someday. There was a note underneath, folded twice. Patrick's handwriting. Dad. Found this in Mark's things when we cleaned out the garage. Thought you should have it back. P. That was it. No happy birthday. No explanation of how my father's watch ended up in Linda's ex-husband's possession. No apology for the fact that Patrick had obviously given away something that meant everything to me. Just a return, like I was a lost and found box. I held the watch in my palm. It was still ticking. The inscription on the back was worn, but readable. To William Sr. Time well spent. Margaret, 1952. My mother's handwriting. She died when I was Patrick's age now. The watch felt heavier than I remembered. Or maybe I was just tired of carrying things that other people couldn't be bothered to keep. I set it down on the table next to the phone and stared at both of them. One keeping time, one keeping silence. Both reminders of how little I seemed to matter to the people who were supposed to love me most. The afternoon stretched ahead like a long, empty road. I walked back upstairs and stood in front of the dresser mirror. 72 years old. When did that happen? When did the man in the reflection become my father? Same deep lines around the eyes, same thinning hair, same disappointed expression I remember from Sunday dinners when I was 10. He used to sit at the head of the table, cutting his roast beef in perfect squares, asking about school, about my friends, about plans I didn't have yet. I gave him short answers. Always had somewhere else to be, someone else to see. Now, I'm him. I opened the top drawer and pulled out the envelope. Heavy cream paper, my lawyer's letterhead in the corner. Last will and testament, updated 3 years ago when Elizabeth left. Everything split 3 ways. Patrick, Linda, and the grandkids' college fund. Fair and square. The way I thought a good father should do it. But good fathers don't have their gifts returned without explanation. Good fathers don't spend their birthdays alone staring at silent phones. I carried the envelope downstairs and set it on the kitchen table next to the pocket watch. 2 pieces of paper inside that would determine who gets what when I'm gone. The house, the savings account, the life insurance policy. All of it divided up neat and clean between 2 people who couldn't be bothered to remember the day I was born. The watch kept ticking, patient, steady, like it had been for 70 years. Outside, I could hear children playing. The Bennett boy was home from school, running around their backyard with a soccer ball. His laughter carried through my kitchen window. Pure joy, the kind you forget exists when you get older. His parents were sitting on their back deck, watching him play. Emily clapping when he made a good kick, Robert calling out encouragement. That used to be me. Used to be Elizabeth cheering from the sidelines at Patrick's Little League games, me teaching Linda how to ride her bike in this same driveway. When did we stop being that family? When did we become strangers who share DNA and nothing else? I picked up the watch again, wound it carefully. The mechanism was delicate now, needed gentle handling, like trust, I suppose. Once it breaks, you have to be extra careful putting it back together. And even then, it's never quite the same. The phone buzzed. For a second, my heart jumped. But it was just a text from the bank about my account balance. Not Patrick, not Linda. Just another automated message from another business that only cared about me as a customer number. I looked at the envelope again. Inside those pages was everything I'd worked for. 47 years at the plant. Overtime every weekend for 20 years. Second mortgage to pay for Linda's college. Loan co-signing for Patrick's first house. All of it tallied up in legal language and distributed according to blood relation. But what about love relation? What about who calls, who cares, who remembers? I thought about my father's funeral. I was 43 then, busy with my own family, my own problems. I spoke at the service, said all the right things about what a good man he was, but I couldn't remember the last real conversation we'd had. Couldn't remember asking him how he felt about getting old, about watching his children grow distant, about facing the last years alone. Maybe he sat at a kitchen table too, staring at a silent phone. The envelope felt lighter now, or maybe I was looking at it differently. Those pages weren't carved in stone, they were just paper. Paper that could be changed. I opened my laptop and found the email I was looking for. Harold Peterson, my attorney. We'd gone to high school together, kept in touch over the years. He'd handled my divorce, updated my will, helped me with the estate planning. Good man. Honest. Harold, need to discuss some changes to my will. When can you meet? Bill, I hit send, before I could change my mind. The watch ticked louder in the quiet kitchen. Time moving forward whether I was ready or not. Whether they were ready or not. Outside, the Bennett boy was still playing, still laughing. His parents were still watching, still there, still present in his life, in his joy, in his ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I envied them, all of them, the boy for not knowing how good he had it, the parents for still being young enough to believe it would last forever. But mostly, I envied them for being the kind of family that shows up for each other. My phone buzzed again. Harold's reply, "Can meet tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Everything okay?" "H," I typed back. "Everything's fine. Just time to make some changes." That was the truth. It was time. Past time. I folded the envelope in half and slipped it into my shirt pocket. Tomorrow morning, we'd have a conversation about what it really means to inherit something, about the difference between deserving and receiving, about why a man's final wishes should reflect how he was treated in his final years. The watch kept ticking, patient as ever, but even patience has limits, and I had just found mine. The doorbell rang at 6:15. I was still sitting at the kitchen table, the envelope in my shirt pocket, the pocket watch in my palm. The sound startled me. Nobody ever comes by unannounced anymore. Salespeople, maybe, or someone with the wrong address. I walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. The Bennetts were standing on my porch, all three of them. Robert was holding something wrapped in a kitchen towel. Emily had her hands on Oliver's shoulders, and the boy was clutching what looked like an old photo album against his chest. I opened the door. "Mr. Harris?" Emily's voice was soft, almost apologetic. "I'm so sorry to bother you, but Oliver here has something he wanted to tell you." The boy looked up at me with those wide 8-year-old eyes, the kind that still believed the world was mostly good. "Mr. Harris, I found something in our garage. Mom said I should bring it to you." He held up the photo album. The cover was faded blue leather, corners worn from handling. I recognized it immediately. One of mine, from the box upstairs. But how did it end up in their garage? "We bought this house from the Millers last year," Robert explained, shifting the covered dish in his hands. "When we were cleaning out the garage last weekend, Oliver found this tucked behind some old paint cans. The previous owners must have missed it when they moved." Oliver stepped closer, opening the album to a page near the middle. His small finger pointed to a photo I hadn't seen in years. Me, much younger, surrounded by friends and family at a long table covered with birthday decorations. A big banner in the background read, "Happy 60th Bill." Elizabeth was beside me, laughing at something someone had said. Patrick and Linda were there, too, along with neighbors I hadn't spoken to in years. The Kowalskis from 3 houses down, my old work buddy Frank, even Mrs. Chin looking 20 years younger. Everyone was smiling. "Look," Oliver said, pointing to the corner of the photo where someone had written the date in white ink. "July 18th. That's today, isn't it?" My throat felt tight. "Yes, that's today." "Mom, look!" Oliver turned to Emily, excitement building in his voice. "It's his birthday, just like I said. There's cake and presents and everyone's happy." He flipped through more pages, showing me pictures I'd forgotten existed. Me blowing out candles, Elizabeth cutting cake, Patrick giving a toast with a beer bottle raised high, Linda hugging me while I opened a present. a fishing rod I'd wanted for months. "This looks like the best party ever," Oliver said wistfully. "Look how many friends you had." Emily's eyes filled with something I hadn't seen directed at me in a long time, genuine concern, real warmth. Oliver came running into the kitchen this afternoon so excited. He'd been looking through all the pictures for an hour, asking questions about everything, and when he saw this one, she gestured to the photo. "He said we had to come over. He said you might be lonely on your birthday." "I told Mom about how you wave at me when I come home from school," Oliver continued, his words tumbling out fast the way kids do when they're excited, "and how you always fix things in your yard by yourself, and how you mow your grass with that old mower that makes funny noises, and how I never see anybody visit you, not like at Tommy's house, where his grandparents come over all the time." He paused for breath. "And then when I found this picture of your birthday party, I thought maybe nobody remembered this year, and that made me really sad." Robert cleared his throat, looking slightly embarrassed. "We hope we're not overstepping here, Mr. Harris. We just thought, well, Emily lost her parents when she was 16. Car accident on I-94 during a snowstorm. And my parents both passed a few years back. Mom first from cancer, then Dad just couldn't go on without her. Died 6 months later. Doctor said his heart was fine, but we knew better." Emily nodded, her voice getting quieter, more personal. "When you lose your parents young, like I did, you realize how precious it is to have older people in your life. People with stories, with wisdom gained from actually living through things. People who remember when the world was different." She looked down at Oliver, then back at me. "My parents never got to meet Oliver, never got to see him take his first steps or start school or learn to ride a bike. That's a loss that never stops hurting." "But you're here," Oliver said simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "You're like a grandpa who lives next door, and grandpas shouldn't be alone on their birthdays." Robert shifted the dish again, and I caught a whiff of chocolate. "When you lose people you love, you start to understand that every birthday matters, every celebration, every moment when someone feels remembered and valued." He paused. "We see you out there every morning with your coffee, looking out at the street. We see you working in your garden, keeping everything neat and tidy. You wave at Oliver every day when he comes home from school, and that little gesture, it means something to him, to us." "It means you're a good neighbor," Emily added, "a good man. And good men deserve to feel like they matter, like they're not invisible, especially on their birthday." "Especially when they're 72, Oliver added solemnly, like he understood the weight of all those years. Robert lifted the kitchen towel with a flourish, revealing a homemade chocolate cake. Not fancy, clearly made from a box mix, but decorated with careful swirls of white frosting and 72 candles stuck in neat rows across the surface. Some were birthday candles, some were regular white ones. A few were even those trick candles that relight themselves. "Oliver insisted on counting out every single candle," Robert said with a smile. "Took us 3 tries to fit them all on. Had to use a cookie sheet as a base." "I counted them twice to make sure," Oliver said proudly. 72 is a lot of candles, more than I've ever seen on one cake." I stared at the cake, at these 3 people standing on my porch, at the photo album that had somehow found its way back to me through an 8-year-old's curiosity and kindness. The pocket watch in my hand seemed to tick louder, marking moments that suddenly felt precious instead of empty. "We don't want to intrude," Emily said quickly, misreading my silence for reluctance. "We know you don't really know us, and maybe this seems strange. We just thought maybe we could sit with you for a little while, share some cake, let you know that someone remembered. Oliver made you a card, too," Robert added, nudging his son gently. The boy dug into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of construction paper, blue with silver star stickers around the edges. On the front, in careful crayon letters with some backwards R's, he'd written, "Happy birthday, Mr. Harris." Inside was a drawing of two stick figures, one tall wearing what looked like a baseball cap, one short with spiky hair, standing next to a house with a big tree in the yard. "That's you and me," he explained, pointing to each figure. "I drew us being friends. See? You're teaching me how to use tools in your garage, and I'm helping you rake leaves." Something broke open in my chest. Not broke, more like cracked open, letting light in where there had been only darkness for so long. This child had imagined a friendship that didn't exist yet, but somehow felt inevitable, had seen possibilities where I'd only seen emptiness. "Would you—" I had to clear my throat, surprised by how rough my voice sounded. "Would you like to come in?" Oliver's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? Can we sing happy birthday? Can I help light the candles? Do you have ice cream?" "Oliver," Emily warned gently, "let's not overwhelm Mr. Harris." "It's William," I said, stepping back to let them in. "Or Bill, whatever feels right. And yes, you can sing. I'd like that very much." "Really?" Oliver asked again, like he couldn't quite believe his luck. "You want us to stay?" "Son," I said, looking down at this boy who had somehow seen through my kitchen window to the loneliness inside, "I can't think of anything I'd want more." They followed me into the kitchen, and immediately the space felt different, alive. Emily set the cake on the table next to where my phone still sat silent, and Robert began the careful process of lighting 72 candles. Oliver climbed onto the chair next to mine and opened the photo album again, this time more slowly, studying each picture. "Tell me about this party," he said, pointing to the birthday photo. "Who are all these people? Do they still live here?" I looked at the photo, really looked at it for the first time in years. "That's my son Patrick," I said, pointing to a younger version of the man who had returned my father's watch with a 2-line note. "And that's Linda, my daughter. She's the one laughing at something her cousin Jenny said." "Where are they now?" Oliver asked with the innocent directness that only children possess. I felt Emily and Robert listening, waiting for my answer. "They're busy," I said finally. "They have their own lives now, their own families." "But it's your birthday," Oliver said, like this explained everything that needed explaining about family obligations. The candles were all lit now. 72 tiny flames flickered in my kitchen, casting dancing shadows on the walls, reflecting off the window glass. More light than this room had seen in months. More warmth than I'd felt in years. "Make a wish, Mr. Harris," Oliver urged, bouncing slightly in his chair. "Make a really good one." I closed my eyes. For the first time in years, I actually had something to wish for. Not for my children to call. That ship had sailed. Not for Elizabeth to come back. That story was over. I wished for more moments like this. more unexpected kindness, more reasons to believe that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who shows up, who remembers, who sees you as more than just the old man next door. I opened my eyes and blew out the candles. Oliver cheered and clapped. Emily and Robert joined in the applause. And for one perfect moment, my kitchen was filled with celebration again. The pocket watch sat on the table beside us, still ticking steadily. But now, it wasn't counting down time I was losing. It was counting up time I was gaining. The cake was gone by 8:30. We'd eaten every crumb, laughed at Oliver's chocolate-covered fingers, and I'd told stories I hadn't shared in years. About the house when it was new, about the neighborhood when all the kids rode bikes until dark, about my father and the pocket watch that had somehow become the centerpiece of our impromptu celebration. "Your dad sounds like he was really smart," Oliver said, carefully turning the watch over in his small hands. "What did he tell you about time?" I thought for a moment. "He said time was the only thing you couldn't buy more of, so you better spend it on people who matter." "Like us?" Oliver asked hopefully. "Like you," I said, and meant it. Emily started gathering the empty plates, but I waved her off. "Leave them. I'll take care of it later." The truth was, I didn't want them to leave yet. This kitchen had been silent for too long. The voices, the laughter, even Oliver's endless questions. It all felt like oxygen to lungs that had been holding their breath. "Mr. Harris, Bill," Robert said, settling back in his chair. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but that photo album, there are so many pictures, so many people. What happened to all those friendships?" I looked at the open album, at faces I hadn't thought about in years. Life happened, I suppose. People move, people change, people get busy with their own problems. I touched the edge of a picture showing me and Frank from work at a company barbecue. Frank there. We were close for 20 years, fished together every weekend. But after I retired, we just drifted. He's got grandkids now. Different priorities. "But you could call him," Oliver said matter-of-factly. "If you miss him, you could just call." "It's not that simple, buddy," Robert said gently. "Why not?" Oliver asked. "If somebody was my friend and I missed them, I'd call them. I'd say, 'Hey, want to come over and play?' That's what friends do." Emily smiled at her son's simplicity. Adults make things more complicated than they need to be sometimes. "Much more complicated," I agreed. I turned the page in the album and found a picture that made me pause. My neighbor, Jim Morrison, arm around his wife Betty, both of them laughing at something. The Morrisons lived next door for 15 years. Jim and I used to help each other with yard work, borrowed tools back and forth. Betty would bring over extra cookies when she baked. "What happened to them?" Oliver asked. "Jim got sick, Alzheimer's. Betty had to put him in a care facility about 3 years ago, sold the house, and moved to Florida to be near their daughter." I stared at the empty house, visible through my kitchen window. The new owners are nice enough, but they keep to themselves. Different generation. "That's really sad," Oliver said quietly. "Do you still talk to Betty?" I shook my head. Lost touch. It happens. "But it doesn't have to happen," Emily said softly. "Sometimes we just let it happen because it seems easier than fighting to keep connections alive." She was right, of course. I'd let a lot of things slip away because fighting seemed too hard, too exhausting, too much like admitting I needed people more than they needed me. "Can I ask you something?" Oliver said, looking up at me with those serious 8-year-old eyes. "Why don't your kids live here anymore? In the pictures, they look really happy." The question hit like a punch to the chest, but it was asked with such innocent curiosity that I couldn't be angry. People grow up, Oliver. They move away, start their own families. It's natural. "But you're still their dad," he said simply. "That doesn't change, right?" "No," I said. "That doesn't change." "So why don't they come visit? My mom's dad died before I was born, but if he was still alive, we'd visit him all the time. Mom always says she wishes she could talk to him just one more time." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Oliver, that's enough questions for now." "It's okay," I said, though it wasn't really. "He's curious. That's good." I looked at Oliver, trying to find words that were honest but not bitter. Sometimes families have disagreements. Sometimes people say things they can't take back. And sometimes people just forget how to be a family. "What kind of disagreements?" Oliver pressed. Robert reached over and put his hand on his son's arm. "Oliver, that's probably too personal." But I found myself wanting to tell them. These people had shown me more kindness in 2 hours than my own children had in 2 years. Maybe it was the sugar from the cake, or the warmth from the candles, or just the relief of having human voices in my house again. Whatever it was, the story came pouring out. When my wife Elizabeth and I got divorced 3 years ago, the kids had to choose sides. Not openly. Nobody said, "You have to pick Mom or Dad." But Elizabeth moved into a nice apartment downtown, started going to book clubs and wine tastings and art classes. She became fun again, free. I stayed here in this old house with my old routines and my old complaints. "That doesn't sound like choosing sides," Emily said gently. "Maybe not at first. But then Elizabeth started hosting Sunday dinners at her place, game nights, holiday gatherings, all the things I used to complain about when we were married. Too much noise, too much mess, too much fuss. She made them fun again, made herself the center of everything again. I turned another page in the album, found a Christmas picture from happier times. The kids started going to her events instead of coming here, and I got proud, stubborn, stopped inviting myself, stopped calling to ask about their lives. "Pride's a dangerous thing," Robert said quietly. "My dad struggled with it too after Mom died. Wouldn't ask for help, wouldn't admit he was lonely. We had to practically force our way into his house to check on him. The final straw was Linda's divorce," I continued. "She needed money for lawyer fees. Came to me crying, desperate. I gave her $10,000 without question. A week later, I found out she'd asked Elizabeth for money too. Got another $5,000 from her. But she only thanked Elizabeth, only called Elizabeth to talk through her problems. I was just the ATM. Oliver frowned. "That doesn't seem fair." "Life isn't fair, buddy, but it is what it is." I closed the album gently. When I asked Linda about it, she said Elizabeth was easier to talk to, less judgmental, more supportive. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had become the grumpy old man who only knew how to solve problems with money instead of listening. "But you're not grumpy," Oliver protested. "You're nice. You tell good stories, and you have the coolest watch, and you wave at me every day." That cracked something open in my chest again. "Thank you, Oliver. That means more than you know." Have you tried calling them? Emily asked. Your children, I mean. Maybe they don't know how to bridge the gap either. Maybe they're waiting for you to make the first move. I thought about the envelope in my shirt pocket, about my morning appointment with Harold Peterson. I thought about it, but then this morning happened. My birthday. Complete silence. Not even a text message. I shook my head. A man reaches a point where he stops chasing people who don't want to be caught. But what if they do want to be caught? Oliver asked. What if they're just scared or confused or don't know what to say? What if they're not? I countered gently. What if some people really are just too busy with their own lives to remember their father's birthday? The kitchen fell quiet, except for the ticking of the pocket watch. Oliver picked it up again, wound it carefully like I'd shown him earlier. This watch has been ticking for a really long time, he said thoughtfully, even when nobody was listening to it, even when it was in a box or forgotten somewhere. It just kept going. That's what good watches do, I said. Maybe that's what good grandpas do too, he said, looking up at me. They just keep going, even when it's hard, even when people forget about them for a while. Emily wiped her eyes with her napkin. Oliver, you're going to make me cry. I'm not trying to make you cry, Mom. I'm just saying maybe Mr. Bill shouldn't give up on his kids. Maybe they'll remember how to be a family again. Robert cleared his throat. The boy has a point, Bill. People get lost sometimes. Doesn't mean they can't find their way back. I looked around the table at these three people who had appeared on my doorstep like angels, carrying cake and kindness and a photo album full of memories I'd tried to forget. Oliver was still winding the watch, listening to its steady rhythm. What would you do? I asked Emily. If you were me? She was quiet for a long moment, considering. I think I'd give them one more chance, not because they deserve it necessarily, but because you deserve to know you tried everything, that you were the kind of father who never gave up, even when giving up seemed easier. And if they disappoint you again? Robert asked. Then at least you'll know where you stand, Emily said, and you can move forward without wondering, what if? Oliver looked up from the watch. Plus, if they don't want to be your family, we could be your family instead. Couldn't we, Mom? Emily's smile was radiant. Oliver, that's the sweetest thing you've ever said. I mean it, he said seriously. You could be like my extra grandpa. We could have Sunday dinners and play games, and you could teach me how to fix things. And on your birthday every year, we'd always remember. We'd make you the biggest cake with the most candles and invite all our friends. I felt tears threatening for the first time in months. I would like that very much, Oliver, more than you know. Good, he said, satisfied. But you should still call your real kids first, just to see, because maybe they're sad too. Maybe they miss you, but don't know how to say it. The wisdom of 8-year-olds, simple, direct, and usually right. I reached into my shirt pocket and pulled out the envelope, set it on the table next to the watch and the empty cake plate. I was going to change my will tomorrow morning, leave everything to strangers rather than family who forgot I existed. We're going to? Robert asked. Past tense, I said. This conversation has changed my perspective on a few things. Oliver picked up the envelope, turned it over in his hands like he had the watch. What's a will? It's a paper that says who gets your stuff when you die. Emily explained gently. "Oh," Oliver said, "so this paper decides who gets the watch." "Among other things," I said. He handed the envelope back to me. "I think the watch should stay in your family. It belonged to your dad, and then to you, and maybe someday to your son or your grandchildren. That's how family things work, right? They get passed down." "Usually, yes." "Then maybe you should try calling them first before you give the watch to strangers. Maybe they want it, but they're too proud to ask, like you're too proud to call." Emily shook her head in amazement. "Sometimes I wonder if this kid is actually 40 years old inside." "Old soul," Robert agreed. I looked at the envelope, at the watch, at the faces of these three people who had given me the best birthday I'd had in years. Maybe Oliver was right. Maybe there was still time to try once more. Maybe the watch needed to keep ticking in the family it was meant for, even if that family was broken and scattered and forgot important days. "One more chance," I said quietly. "I'll give them one more chance." Oliver grinned. "And if it doesn't work out, you can always be our grandpa instead." "Deal," I said, shaking his small hand solemnly. "But either way, we're having Sunday dinner next week, all of us, here in this kitchen." "Really?" Oliver bounced in his chair. "Can I help cook?" "You can be the head chef," I promised. The pocket watch ticked on, measuring moments that no longer felt like time lost, but time found. Time to try again. Time to hope again. Time to remember that family isn't always about who shares your blood, but about who shares your table and remembers your birthday and teaches you that it's never too late for second chances. A year had passed since that birthday, 365 days of Sunday dinners with the Bennetts, of Oliver running over after school to help me fix broken sprinklers and organize my garage, of Emily bringing soup when I caught a cold in November, of Robert and I watching football games and arguing about which team would make it to the playoffs. 365 days and not a single call from Patrick or Linda. I'd tried, just like I promised Oliver I would. Called Patrick the morning after my birthday, heart hammering like a teenager asking for a first date. Got his voicemail. Left a message saying I'd like to talk, that I missed him, that maybe we could work things out. He never called back. Tried Linda a week later. She actually answered, but the conversation lasted exactly 4 minutes. She was busy with work, busy with dating again after the divorce, busy with everything except having a real conversation with her father. When I mentioned my birthday, she said, "Oh God, Dad, I'm so sorry. Things have been crazy." But she didn't ask if I'd celebrated, didn't ask if I was okay, just apologized and moved on to complaining about her boss. I sent Christmas cards. Both kids sent generic cards back, the kind you buy in bulk at the grocery store with printed signatures. Patrick included a photo of his family at some ski resort. Linda's card had a picture of her and some new boyfriend I'd never met, both of them holding wine glasses on what looked like a cruise ship. I stopped trying after that, but the house wasn't empty anymore. Oliver had a key now. Emily and Robert insisted, after the third time, they found him waiting on my front porch because I was at the grocery store. He'd come over most afternoons, do homework at my kitchen table while I prepared dinner for whoever wanted to stay. Sometimes it was just the two of us. Sometimes the whole family. Sometimes other neighbors joined us. Mrs. Chen The Martinez family from 2 streets over, even Jerry the mailman on his days off. My kitchen table, silent for so long, had become the center of something I hadn't expected. A chosen family. The pocket watch sat in its place of honor on the mantel now, next to a wooden box Oliver had made me in his woodworking class at school. Inside the box were birthday cards from each of my Sunday dinners, not just from Oliver, but from everyone who'd become part of this accidental family. 23 cards from 23 celebrations, because we'd decided to celebrate everyone's birthday like it mattered, which it did. This morning was July 18th again, my 73rd birthday. I woke up the same way I had the year before, 6:30, coffee already brewing, sitting at the kitchen table by the window. But this time, my phone wasn't silent. "Happy birthday, Grandpa Bill!" Oliver's voice rang through the speaker when I answered. He'd started calling me Grandpa Bill about 6 months ago, and it still made my chest tight with feelings I couldn't name. "Thank you, buddy. You're up early. Mom's making pancakes, the special ones with chocolate chips, and Dad bought bacon. Can we come over after breakfast and start setting up for your party?" My party? Right. Oliver had been planning this for weeks, making lists and charts and detailed diagrams of where everyone should sit. He'd invited the whole neighborhood. Mrs. Chen was bringing her famous spring rolls. The Martinez kids were performing some kind of dance they'd been practicing. Jerry was bringing his guitar. "The party doesn't start until 6, I reminded him. "I know, but there's lots to do. We have to hang the streamers and blow up balloons and set up the tables and—" His voice faded as he apparently handed the phone to his mother. "Good morning, Bill." Emily's voice was warm and amused. "I hope you're ready for chaos. This boy has been awake since 5, making sure everything's perfect for your big day." "Emily, you all don't need to go to so much trouble." "It's not trouble when it's for family," she said simply, and the word family still caught me off guard. Sometimes. Besides, Oliver would never forgive us if we didn't make this the best birthday party ever. He's determined to top last year. Last year. The first year anyone had remembered. The year that changed everything. "I'll be ready," I said. "And Emily, thank you for everything." "Thank you for letting us love you," she said quietly. "See you in a few hours." After I hung up, I sat for a moment in the quiet kitchen, drinking my coffee and watching the street wake up. The Nguyen family across the way was loading camping gear into their van. The teenagers next door were washing their car in the driveway, music playing, water everywhere. Life happening all around me, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was part of it, instead of just watching it through glass. At 8 o'clock, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Probably a robocall or someone trying to sell me something, but something made me pick up. "Dad?" Patrick's voice. After more than a year of silence, my son was calling me. "Patrick." My voice came out rougher than I intended. Jesus, this is harder than I thought it would be." He paused, and I could hear traffic in the background. "I know it's your birthday. I know I haven't called. I know I've been a terrible son, and I don't really have an excuse except that I'm stubborn and proud, and apparently I inherited both of those things from you." I didn't say anything. Couldn't say anything. "Emma asked me yesterday why we never see Grandpa anymore. She's 17 now, Dad. 17, and she hardly remembers you. And I realized I couldn't give her an answer that didn't make me sound like a complete asshole." Patrick, no, let me finish. Please, I've been practicing this speech for 3 days. He took a shaky breath. I was angry about the divorce. Angry that you and Mom couldn't figure out how to be happy together. Angry that I had to choose sides when both of you were hurting. Angry that you seemed to give up on everything, including us. The words stung because they were true. But Emma said something that stopped me cold. She said, "Dad, if you and Mom ever split up, I wouldn't stop loving you both. I just love you differently." And I thought, when did I stop loving you? When did I decide that taking Mom's side meant I couldn't have a relationship with my father? I found my voice. I stopped trying too, son. I got tired of feeling like I was chasing people who didn't want to be caught. We did want to be caught, he said quietly. We just didn't know how to let ourselves be caught. Does that make sense? More than you know. Dad, I'm calling because I want to try again. If you're willing, I want Emma and Jake to know their grandfather. I want to remember how to be your son instead of just Elizabeth's ally. He paused. I know I don't deserve it after ignoring your birthday last year and Christmas and everything. But if there's any chance. I closed my eyes, felt years of hurt and disappointment warring with hope I'd tried to bury. Patrick, are you calling because it's my birthday or because you actually want a relationship? Both, he said honestly. The birthday reminded me what a shit I've been. But the wanting a relationship, that's been eating at me for months. I miss you, Dad. I miss having a father. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Through the kitchen window, I could see Oliver standing on my front porch, arms full of party decorations, practically vibrating with excitement. Patrick, I need to tell you something. I have plans today, people who've become important to me, people who didn't forget. Silence on the other end of the line. Of course you do, he said finally. I'm too late. I waited too long. No, I said quickly. You're not too late, but you can't just waltz back in and expect everything to be the same. I've built a life without you and Linda, a good life. And the people in that life, they matter to me now. I understand. Do you? Because if you want to be part of my life again, you'll need to be part of their lives too. They're my family now, Patrick. Chosen family, but family all the same. The doorbell rang again. Oliver's face was pressed against the glass, looking worried. What if I came by later today? Patrick asked. After your party. Maybe I could meet these people who've been taking care of my father when I wasn't. Something in his voice, humility mixed with genuine curiosity, made my decision for me. The party starts at 6, I said. You could come to that. Bring Emma and Jake if they want to come. Meet everyone properly. You'd want us there? I'd want you to understand who I am now, who I've become, and maybe we can figure out how to blend the family I was born with and the family I chose. Dad, yes, I love you. I should have said that last year. Should have said it 100 times over the past 3 years. I love you, and I'm sorry. The words I'd been waiting to hear, the words I'd given up hope of ever hearing. I love you too, son. I never stopped. After we hung up, I opened the door for Oliver, who immediately launched into a detailed explanation of his party timeline. But I wasn't really listening. I was thinking about second chances and chosen families and the strange way life sometimes gives you exactly what you need just when you think it's too late. The pocket watch ticked on the mantel, keeping time for all of it. The lost years and the found ones. The broken relationships and the mended ones. The birthdays forgotten and the birthdays that would be remembered forever. At 6 o'clock, my backyard was full of people. The Bennetts, of course, but also the Chins and the Martinez family, and Jerry with his guitar and neighbors I'd only recently gotten to know. Oliver had strung lights between the trees and set up tables covered with mismatched tablecloths. The cake, his masterpiece, sat in the center of it all, decorated with 73 candles and a plastic figurine that looked suspiciously like me. At 6:15, a car pulled into my driveway. Patrick got out first, looking nervous and older than I remembered. Then Emma, tall and beautiful, so much like Linda at that age, it took my breath away. Finally Jake, 12 now, all knees and elbows and uncertainty. Oliver spotted them first. "Are those your real grandchildren?" he asked loudly, causing every conversation to stop. "Yes," I said, walking toward them. "Patrick, Emma, Jake, I'd like you to meet Oliver. He's the one who reminded me what birthdays are for." Emma looked around the yard, at the lights and the laughter and the obvious love that had gone into this celebration. "Grandpa, this is amazing." "Oliver planned most of it," I said. "He's very good at parties." Patrick shook Oliver's hand solemnly. "Thank you for taking care of my dad." "He takes care of me, too," Oliver said simply. "That's what families do." Jake, who'd been hanging back, stepped forward. "Grandpa, I made you something." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket, a drawing of a baseball diamond with 2 stick figures, one tall and one short. "I know I haven't seen you in a while, but Mom showed me pictures of you teaching Dad how to play baseball. I thought maybe you could teach me, too." I took the drawing with hands that weren't quite steady. "I'd like that very much, Jake." As the evening went on, I watched my 2 families learn about each other. Emily talking with Emma about college plans. Robert and Patrick discovering they'd both served in the military. Jake and Oliver becoming instant conspirators over plans for a treehouse. Mrs. Chin teaching everyone how to fold dumplings while Jerry played guitar and the neighborhood kids ran around catching fireflies. At the end of the night, after the cake was eaten and the presents opened and the last guests had gone home, I sat on my back porch with Patrick while the kids played one more game of catch in the fading light. "I was wrong about a lot of things," Patrick said quietly, "but I was especially wrong to think that loving Mom meant I couldn't love you too." "We were all wrong about a lot of things," I said. "The important thing is we figured it out before it was too late." "What happens now?" I thought about the envelope, still in my desk drawer, but now containing a very different will than the one I'd planned to sign a year ago. Oliver would still get the pocket watch. I'd promised him that, and promises to 8-year-olds are sacred. But everything else would go to my children, with the understanding that they'd share it with the family who'd kept me alive when they couldn't. "Now we try again," I said, "all of us, together." Oliver ran over, grass-stained and breathless. "Grandpa Bill, this was the best birthday party ever. Can we do it again next year?" "Every year," I promised, "for as long as you want to." "Forever, then," he said matter-of-factly, "because families are forever, even when they mess up sometimes." From the mouth of babes, the pocket watch ticked on, marking time that was no longer empty, but full. full of second chances and Sunday dinners and chosen families and forgiveness, full of the understanding that love isn't about perfection, but about showing up, about remembering, about the willingness to try again, even when trying again feels impossible. 73 years old, and I was finally learning what it meant to be rich.